Okay, welcome to the guided notes, kind of part 2, where we're going to work with proportions and word problems. So proportions can be used to solve word problems in which there is a constant rate. It's very important to stay consistent when setting up your proportion. So we're going to use a one chart, WON, and that stands for words original and new. So when we are setting them up, we are going to then use the rows to help us stay consistent and help us to make sure we're matching up the right words with the right numbers. So you'll see down here I have a one chart for you already made in the U section, and I'm going to go ahead and go over the example. So we're going to solve each word problem using a proportion, round to the nearest tenth or cent when necessary. So we've discussed in class that when you're working with money, and it looks like neither one of these problems have money, but if you are working with money, you only have 2 decimal places. So once you hit that second decimal place, you're just going to stop. You don't need to keep going and keep trying to divide or anything else. Once you hit that, you're just going to stop. And with the answer keys that we have, there's usually multiple choice, and you'll just pick the one that's closest to the money that you have. Usually you'll be off like a cent or so if you had to round. So if you have any questions on that, let me know in class. But other than that, let's get to our example number 1. That's the we do. The ratio of hot dogs to hamburgers sold at a baseball stadium is 8-3. If 207 hot dogs were sold, how many hamburgers were sold? So what they're saying is we're looking at hot dogs first, 2 hamburgers. So that 8 is matching with our hot dogs. So for every 8 hot dogs that are sold, 3 hamburgers are sold. And what they're asking is if 207 hot dogs are sold, we need to know how many hamburgers are sold. So the best way to do this is to make a one chart. We're going to look at our words. We're going to look at the original amount that's in our word problem here, and then we're going to find that new amount. So I'm looking at hot dogs. I'm looking at hamburgers. I'm going to write them down. Now everything that deals with the hot dogs, I'm going to put on that row. So my hot dogs, it looks like hot dogs to hamburgers, which means that hot dogs are first. My 8 goes with the hot dogs. The 3 then goes with the hamburgers. The other way you know that that's how it's set up is remember the 3 different ways we can write a ratio. We can write it A to B, A colon B, or A over B. Notice how we have a colon here. That A is 8 and B is 3. Again, A on top, B on bottom. 8 on top, 3 on bottom. It's the same thing. So you want to go ahead and reference those notes if you forgot. And now what they're asking us, what if 207 hot dogs were sold? So I'm going to put my 207 on that hot dog line. I have no idea, whoops, sorry about that. I have no idea what my hamburgers are, so I'm going to put an X. That's a variable. A variable means I don't know what that is. Instead of putting a question mark, we're putting an X. Now, we're going to solve this. If you look at it, all I need is an equal sign between the 8 over 3 and 27 over, or 272 over X. And that will show you that proportion that we were looking at before. So you kind of just picture that. But while we're doing that, we can just go ahead and cross multiply. So I'm going to notice how I did the same colors I did before, which means what I circled in blue is going to go together. What I circled in red is going to go together. And I'm going to go ahead and write that down. It does not matter if I put my blue number first or my red groups of number first. It doesn't matter. I just happen to put my variable on the left side. It's just habit. You can put it on the right side and still get the same answer because you're still moving things the same way. So I have 8 times X and 272 times 3. The first thing I need to do is solve my multiplication on my right side, those blue numbers. And I'm going to do that. So now I have 8 times X equals 816. I have a one-step equation right here. What I need to do is inverse operation. I have 8 times X. I need that X by itself. I need to isolate that variable. So I do the inverse. operation of multiplication, which is division. Inverse operation means opposite. And so I'm going to divide. What I do on one side, I have to do on the other side to keep it equal. So 8x divided by 8 and 816 divided by 8. On my left side, the 8 divided by 8 crosses out, and it leaves me with 1x. 816 divided by 8 is 102, which makes my x 102. Now, what does this mean? It means that if I'm asking the question, if 272 hot dogs were sold, 102 hamburgers were sold, because my ratio is 8:3. And that's how I answered this question. This x down here equals 102. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to read this word problem and you're going to set it up. You're going to write the ratio. It says the ratio of children to teachers. So your first word is children, your second word is teachers. At a preschool is 14:5. Again, think of the 3 different ways that we write ratios. What goes on top, what goes on bottom, what number matches with what word, how many children at the preschool if there are 30 teachers. So you would put that 30 on the teacher line, and then you're going to cross multiply, just like you see this example over here, to find out what your x is. And the x is how many children to 30 teachers. If you have any questions, let me know.